Welcome to the Uncle Jim AEffect podcast. My name is Dennis Deloach, and I will be your host. This is episode number 57, and I can't believe how it's coming up on about 10 months since we started this podcast. Got a lot of subscribers and a lot of views, and just want to say how grateful I am for that. So today's going to be a little different. I've had a bunch of people reach out and say, would you please go over and review that story of the Uncle Jim AEffect and what that is and how you got started, and tie that in with some of the podcasts you've had. So what I'm going to do today is kind of start introduce and talk a little bit about that Uncle Jim AEffect, what that is, what it meant to me, and why I started this podcast. Then I've got a list of all the podcasts we've done. Just want to go over a couple of or several different topics that are common to those and just review those. So this, I hope, will be of benefit to you. And again, I've had a bunch of people reach out and say, could you please kind of review that, refresh it in our minds, and because it's such an important concept to you, it means so much to us. Would you please do that? And I gladly will do that. So here we go. Thanks again for watching, and please share with your family and friends. Again, our purpose here is to help people realize their God-given potential. We want to do that throughout the world. We want to change the way the world operates and make people realize what their God-given potential is and create hope in their lives, and they can share that with their family, friends, neighbors, communities, and just make the world a better place. And then mainly so that we each realize that potential in our life and what that's for. So please subscribe to us. We're on Apple Podcast and Spotify Music. So let's get going. So again, let's talk a little bit about the Uncle Jim AEffect. First thing is the AEffect is the AEffect. So it has the word effect and effect. So there's actually not a word that's spelled AEffect. We kind of made that up, but it's basically when something or something that happens to you that has an effect on you that creates an effect that you have from that moment forward on others or your own life or your own actions. So some effect with an A has an effect on you, whether it's a one-time thing or it's somebody believed in you or an event or something that happened. From that point forward, because of the effect it had on you, you then create effects throughout your life and with those you come in contact with. And so that's how we came up with this podcast. And I'm going to share with you who Uncle Jim was and how we got started with that. So real quickly, I grew up in a small farming town in the state of Washington. The town was about 3,500 or 4,000 people. The proverbial one traffic light town. We actually did only have one. Our high school was 4 grades and had about, I believe, 450, maybe 480 kids in it. It was a very strong athletic high school for being so small. It was a farming community, so it raised a bunch of tough kids, kind of out by itself out in the middle of central southern Washington. But anyway, I had being large and had a tremendous passion and love for the game of football and all sports in general. Had the opportunity to play a lot when I was younger. And so I was starting both ways as a sophomore on this school, and the school we did pretty well. And my Uncle Jim, who was my mom's brother, who was our only relative within 1,000 miles of us, lived about an hour and a half away. And we had the opportunity to go play a game close to where he lived, and he let me know that he was going to come watch that game. And it was in my sophomore year, and I remember being excited to have him come. I had my mom's sister, my aunt, come all the way from California to watch me play in junior high, and I just thought that was really special. But this is about the Uncle Jim AEffect and what he did and the effect it had on me. And so as he came and watched the game, we played a bigger school, and I actually did pretty well. I remember after the game, him coming up and basically saying to me what were my plans with college And I really didn't understand what he was saying. And I said, I'm not sure what you mean. He said, well, after watching you, I think you've got a great chance to play college football. So I just wonder what your plans are with that. And I remember thinking, well, I don't really have any plans because I've never thought about that. And I hadn't really heard that up to that point. So it made me start to think, well, gosh, if he believes that I can do that, then why not? And so now we fast forward. That was when I was about 15. We fast forward about 45 years to when about 5 years ago or so. And my wife and I were asked to come out. My sister had a Dale Carnegie facility there in California. I was really excited about that and wanted us to come out and experience that and share with us what she was so passionate about. And she invited us to come out and to go through a course on public speaking and to just kind of spend time with her and see how that went. And we were really excited to do that. And we went and did it. And I remember thinking, well, I can do this. I've been a leader in all the sports I've played. I've owned businesses and had dozens and dozens of employees, and we've had to relate to them. And so I feel comfortable speaking in front of groups. This should be pretty easy. I remember getting up and I think she gave us about 60 seconds. And for my topic to get up in front of this class, I think the class is about 20, 25 people. And she said, I want you to talk about a single event that's influenced your life and how it did so. Go. And so I had about 60 seconds to process that question. And for some odd reason, I just went absolutely blank. I'm sitting there thinking, oh, you got to be kidding me. I've had so many tremendous people that have influenced my life, and mentors and coaches and, D1 athletics and professional school and all those things, and consultants, and just went blank. And again, we had about 60 seconds. I went blank for about 50 seconds or so. And then it hit me. Wow. It flashed back to me. I hadn't really thought about that. And I thought, as I thought about my life and looked backwards, I thought, wow, had Uncle Jim not made that comment to me, where did my life really take a change? At that point, that was the first point where I actually had a fork in the road that said, wow, someone introduced to me that there was even a possibility of this fork that led to Division I athletics, in my case, football, which ultimately led me to a scholarship, and which ultimately led me to unbelievable experiences. I had the opportunity to play early in college and travel all over the United States and have success and notoriety, and which led me, because of that success and also in the classroom, to getting into dental school and professional school. And then as I transformed that and took those things I learned in sports into that new endeavor in my life and adventure, we had multiple practices. I was able, at one point, we had, I think, about 50 employees or 60, had another dental related business. And as I thought about that, it hit me all in an instant. Wow, what that effect that Uncle Jim had on me by that simple comment or belief in me. And I was kind of given a vision or a blessing to see what my life maybe would have looked like had I not been, had he not shared with me his belief in me. And I saw maybe going down the road this way to not doing football and not having these opportunities and not being able to do that, to where I thought I would be headed versus where I ended up. Now, again, I've experienced every possible hiccup, bump in the road, and challenge in life. But still, I feel like I've been so blessed and in such a great position that as that hit me, it was almost emotional. And I remember sharing this story off the cuff. And I remember my sister coming up to me after and saying, wow, I had no idea that happened, or that was that big of a deal. I said, actually, I didn't either until you asked me that question. And it just hit me, and I shared with her what I just shared with you. And I just really, anyway, I want to share. And unfortunately, she's passed away about a year and a half ago. But because of what she offered to my wife and I to come out and do that, this opened up all of this to me. And now I share all this with you. And so that's the Uncle Jim effect story. And so the whole point of this podcast, or the whole point of me wanting to give back, is that I see where I am currently, and I see where I could have been based on where I should have been. And it's light years away. And I think, wow, if somebody changed my whole um, trajectory, and location and blessings and all of that, just light years apart, uh, why wouldn't I want to do that every day with everybody I meet? And so that's the beginning of the Uncle Jim Effect podcast. And so the whole purpose of why I do this podcast and share with you, and hope that you do more than just listen, but implement it in your life. The whole point of all of this is to take your God-given potential, to understand that what we see in ourselves and what we see as potential is so much smaller than what God has in store for us. That if we can then believe in ourselves, at least to know that we are children of God with heavenly DNA and potential to do unbelievable things, if we will just believe that, and then moving forward, I challenge you to do two things. One, to look back in your life and to see who was your Uncle Jim, or maybe you've had multiple ones in personal life and business and sports and whatever, but who is the Uncle Jim in your life, and reach out and thank him. And then more importantly, who in your life needs an Uncle Jim effect from you. And this isn't a one-time thing, and it shouldn't be fake, and it shouldn't be just handed out to people you don't even know. But as you sit there and ponder or pray about opportunities and who in your life needs to hear this, I promise you that you'll have revealed to you who those people are and what you should do or say. And again, the goal is to elevate people so that they understand their God-given potential, and that even though we all have weaknesses, and even though we all go through struggles, and even though we all make mistakes, and even though we all have setbacks, we all have health setbacks, financial setbacks, relationship setbacks, that doesn't matter. It's not how many times we get hit, it's how many times do we get up. And so that's the whole point behind this Uncle Jim Effect podcast. And I wanted to reiterate that to you so that you can then recenter your life to realize and step back and have gratitude for those in your life that have been your Uncle Jim and had the effect on you that's created these positive steps in your life. And then more importantly, to pay it forward. And we can do this over and over and over, specifically starting with people in our family, our children, our spouses, the neighbors, people that we have stewardship over, whether it's in business or neighborhoods or churches or communities, anything and anybody that we come in contact, that we have relationships with. Those are things that we can then, those are people we can have an influence over. And as we do that, then we will absolutely make this world such a much better place. And I promise you, as we do that, the astronomical exponential effect we have will be mind-boggling. And so that basically takes care of what the Uncle Jim effect is. I also just made some notes. I want to just talk about some of the things that we've talked about in these previous 56 podcasts. I don't want to go over, but I made some notes. We started with the why not me. I remember that first podcast that I just said, I'm so tired of talking about doing this, really to give back. So I just set a timer and said, I got 15 minutes, and either way, somehow I'm recording something. So do it. And, you don't have to make things perfect. You just got to start and perfect them as you go. We make too many mistakes in life to think when you have an idea or it's time to do something, instead of just simply doing it, we try to plan for it, prepare for it, make it perfect, review it, think about it, plan it to death, and never do it, versus just time to do it. I'm going to do it, all perfected as I go. We talk a lot about God-given potential in these podcasts. I just spent some time on that, but that's really the essence. myself left to my own devices, I am not that talented. But for whatever reason, God has, uh, in my mind, given me a platform and potential that He wants me to do certain things that I, at least at this point in life, think this is what I need to do to fulfill my God-given potential, and I'm trying my best to do that. And hopefully, you'll do the same. So important to be intentional in life, and being intentional. We talk a lot about that. Is simply saying I'm not going to let things happen to me with my time. I'm not going to sit back, be defensive, and catch things. I'm basically going to be intentional about my time, my schedule, my goals, my statements, my internal dialogue. I am absolutely going to have a plan on what I do and get after it that way. Individual accountability, we talk a lot about that. Jocko Willink talks about extreme ownership. And literally, that's what changed my life, was the concept of everything that happened to me in business. Even when I had 60, 70 employees and 4 or 5 businesses, I could not control what every one of those people did. But at some level, in fact, at every level, the outcome that they had was a reflection on my leadership ability for them. So if they were failing, it's because I had not trained people above them, or I had not given them enough coaching in that area, or made it clear to them exactly what it is I expected. I've had some great people on, from Chad Hymas, who the Wall Street Journal said was one of the top 10 most influential people in the world. He's been a great friend of mine for several years, and his story is phenomenal. I've had my good friend Tom Shea, the Navy SEAL for 23 years, who headed the sniper program, and we talked a lot about internal dialogue. He's a man that's changed my life. I've had on a bunch of people that are just unbelievable to me, all the way from world champions, Olympic champions, to Navy SEAL Team 6 members. And to me, it's amazing. Their stories are so similar. It's believe in yourself, don't give up, fight through adversity, and do all those things. We talk a lot about gratitude, focus, believing in yourself, all these things that literally every day we have to continue to do. Talk a lot about the 10X lifestyle and the 10X growth mindset that we want to have, and that it's easier to actually 10X your goals than it is to double them. Because when we double them, the first thing we think about is, okay, well, what else do I have to do? And when we 10X them or make them astronomically out of our comfort zone, we realize, like, there's no way I can do that. And so that's the point. We have to bring in different people in our lives and different mindsets, and get our time management so much different. And so 10X growth is a big deal. We talk a lot about greatness in these podcasts. And again, greatness isn't necessarily mean lots of likes and people know you, but it means that you're becoming great by realizing your God-given potential. We talked about the word for the year 2024 was abundance. Hopefully you're living an abundant lifestyle, abundant in opportunities to serve, abundant in your businesses, abundant in your personal relationships, abundance in opportunities to increase your health. We talk about getting in the arena. I mean, so many people stand on the sideline and are haters and talk about you and how you're not reaching your goals. But, it's a comfortable spot sitting on the sidelines complaining about people that are actually in the game, sweating and, sweat, blood, and tears. And so don't pay much attention to people that talk about how you're not amounting to much as they sit having their Kool-Aid on the sidelines. That never really affected me too much. We talked about being an unreasonable man or woman. People that are reasonable don't accomplish great things. It's the unreasonable man or woman. And by unreasonable, we mean, if it says we need to get up at 6 o'clock, sometimes you got to get up at 4:30. That's being unreasonable. Or when other people are giving an effort of 8, you got to give an effort of 11. And that's just being unreasonable. Talk a lot about duty and courage, attitude. Those are all just important things that are critical to the success we have, about not giving up, always being accountable. One of my favorite words is charity, and charity is actually serving mankind, emulating the pure love of Christ, and doing those things that He would do if He were here. I've had a lot of people in my life provide that for me at times that I needed it. And hopefully I've done that for people along the way too. We talk a lot about coaches and mentors. I've had some of the best coaches in the world, ranging from the top dental consultants in my specific niche of dentistry to, Navy SEALs, top professional athletes and coaches. I've been so blessed in that world, and I highly encourage you to continue to do that. We talk a lot about passion and unleashing your passion, and having a competitive nature versus a creative nature. To be competitive means that we think that if for me to succeed, you have to fail. And that's not how it works. In this life, we can actually succeed and bring people with us. And I think a lot of times you see in today's society that, especially in the political realm, we see a lot of competitive nature, which says, if you're succeeding, that means you're stepping on someone else to take their opportunity or money. And it's so absolutely ridiculous. It goes against everything in our Constitution or in the nature of God or in God-given potential. God wants us to have abundance in every area of our life, including finances. And He wants us to become good stewards, because as we become abundant in that area, we are required to help others. So why would He want us living in a non-abundant world? That's just not how it was. There's parables about that. The parable of the talents talks about that, where the people that went out and doubled what they did, He was pleased with, and the ones that didn't, that just went and buried it because they were so afraid of losing it, that they got scolded. And so abundance is a great word. Talk a lot about habits, commitment, creating abundance. Those are things that are critical. I mean, we are what our habits are. So if our habits are sleeping in and procrastinating, not following through, then that's who we become. Talk a lot about confidence, core values. Core values are those things that every decision we make needs to be run through the prism of what is important to me. And we can't just adopt some cool sounding things that other people have on the internet. This determining your personal core values or the core values in your business is a soul searching chore that takes a while. And I would encourage you to do that. It's well worth it. Thoughts lead to the dreams. The thoughts we have in our mind is who we end up becoming. We talk a lot about excuses and what is our excuse? And we all have an excuse. It comes down to accountability. Any reason we say, well, I haven't made money because of this. Well, that's absolutely wrong. Making money is not a difficult thing, but we have to be extremely accountable for everything in our life. We have to have extreme ownership to do that. And those are things that we just need to have good mentors on. We talk about creating value for others and mindset. If you're creating value for other people, you will never have a shortage of respect or money in your life. Talk a lot about D1 decisions. What decisions can I make now and automate them that affect me the rest of my life? And one example is I'm going to get up early. So I'm going to get up at 4:30 or 5 every morning, make the decision today, and bam, you're done. You don't have to worry about it. You just set your alarm and you're done. Talked a lot about Benjamin Franklin and the quotes he had. And I think there were, I forgot how many dozens of quotes we went to. Talked a lot about repentance and scheduled quiet time and duty that we have to perform. And that's really about it. The last couple of guys I've had on my podcast were phenomenal. Daniel Corbett was a SEAL Team 6 member, was wrongfully imprisoned for 18 months in a Serbian prison. Phenomenal lessons. Go back and watch that podcast. And then Harry Butch Reynolds, when I was younger and in college, was the Michael Jordan of track and field, and was one of the first Nike-sponsored athletes, was Olympic world champion. And his story is unbelievable, what he went through. Wrongfully accused of taking drugs. I don't know that I've ever met a better, more honest guy than him, but these are some of the opportunities I've had to interview these people, and they've changed my life forever. So anyway, that was a quick 25-minute review of the Uncle Jim effect and what it is in my life. And then for the previous 56 podcasts that we've had, I would highly encourage you to go back and pick one that jumped out to you. Like, I really need to review this topic. Go back and watch that one and let me know what your comments are. But thank you so much. Let's keep going. We got a lot of work to do if we're going to get millions of people involved in this. I'm not going to give up, but we will keep going. Thanks again, and share this with your family and friends, and keep getting after it. Until next time, we'll see you soon.